Hi there, it's Mark, and welcome to Book Ramble. One of the probably 5 books that have really influenced myself throughout my life. And this is Lord of the Rings. I mean, what can I say about Lord of the Rings? Most people know it now, and it's just so well known. It's been on TV with the movies, and you only have to go onto YouTube to find hundreds, thousands of videos done about the book, the film, the online game, or whatever. For myself, I came across this when I was about 13, about 1977. I'd just moved from the middle school, which in Britain would mean I was about 13, and I transitioned to the high school. And it was a brand new one, well, 1 or 2 years. It was those typical 1970 British-made schools that had a lot of glass frontages with squares of various colours. These happened to be red. So my school uniform was like a red jumper and a white shirt and a tie. I don't know how that equates to the American system in terms of grades, but I was 13. And unfortunately, shows my age, I guess, that school no longer exists. It was almost brand new when I got there, and now it's been demolished. As you came in, it was like a wide open space, like an atrium, and I could look up to the second floor, and there was the library. I can't remember whether we had class trips to the library, we did lessons there. As a teacher, we often take classes in high school to the library, get them to do some reading. So I assume that I would have done the same back then. For some reason, and I never remember this woman's name, but she was the librarian. She would have been almost retired, semi-retired. I remember she was tall and slim and white-haired. How she knew what book to show me, but I must have been floating around. Probably asked some questions. And then she led me down one of the aisles, and it was like these long metal shelves with books on them. And she lifted out a copy of Lord of the Rings. Not this one. This is hardback, but the one she gave me was soft cover. It had a picture of the white tree. And she said, "Oh, you may enjoy this." And boy, was she right. So I took it home. And I don't think I stopped reading it. Night after night after night. I probably had to extend the time in which I had the book with me. And it started this long love affair of the book. From Lord of the Rings, the natural then to continue at that point would have been The Hobbit. And I have to say, I've never really been into The Hobbit. I love the world of Middle-earth. The Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales are just absolutely epic. That background stuff that, as a philologist, Tolkien did. And then Christopher Tolkien took on later. But I've never really cared for The Hobbit so much. I don't know why. It might be the style, the way it was written. So The Hobbit came out first, of course, and then obviously what Tolkien did was put together this epic tale of all these disparate characters. And what I've come to appreciate in later life, which I never had for 4 decades, was the Shakespeareanness of the book. That each character of the Fellowship, they're so distinct. They start as a certain specific type, but you can see how they develop by the end of either their life, like Boromir, or the end of the tale. They all go through this personal journey, none more so than, say, Aragorn. And yet, of all the characters that I could say I love in the book, the one that really struck me at the very beginning, as soon as I came across him, is Shadowfax, which is why he's on the thumbnail. Why Shadowfax? I don't know. It just resonated. So much so that years later, when the film came out, The Two Towers, and he was introduced, that scene when he comes towards Legolas and Gandalf the White and Gimli and Aragorn, it's just epic. It's just epic, and the swell of that music. So it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he got me interested in other books. So, for instance, I was into fantasy. I joined the Navy at 16, so there would have been long periods in which I wasn't picking up books. I got into the Belgariad, the Dawn of Prophecy and all that kind of stuff. Introduced it to a mate of mine, and years later he remembers ourselves talking about it on HMS Charybdis. These old tattered ones, I love this. So I got it because I just came across the whole set. I'm definitely going to read that one. The Many-Coloured Land. If you don't know about this, it's all about people who can go back in time to the Pleistocene era. It's a one-way journey, and they go back because either there's no option for them to do so, the criminals or whatever, and they're put back in time out of the way. And yet they find a whole society there that people they didn't know about. But nothing compares to the world building of this. It's a tour de force in how Tolkien, created the world. And I have an abiding love of cartography. I thought when I was coming out of the Navy I may go into cartography, didn't I? I just love these maps. I could look at these, even now, for hours, and I did as a child, as a young man. I think these may have been done by Tolkien. Just brilliant. They're just so well known now. I mean, if you're into Lord of the Rings, you could look at that map and know where places are. Unbelievable. And so this world came together, and it's just so creative. It's just so well done. Quite slow, ponderous at points, and there's a lot of moving parts. It's also the way in which Tolkien puts in backstory. So as a 13-year-old, there's no way I would have understood Beren and Luthien and all the stories that eventually would be put into the Silmarillion to give some backstory. The places, I can't remember that image being in the book I had. This is the Forest Lothlorien. The language is just so beautiful. It just flows. It's just a brilliant story. And yet, I vividly remember throughout a lot of the 80s, apart from the Ralph Bakshi movie, nothing came out about Lord of the Rings. In fact, by the time I got into the early 90s, and my first child was born, he was born in 1993. Around about that period, I got into a British magazine called SFX. I think Judge Dredd, the movie, came out with Sylvester Stallone. Oh, and there was Stargate. But generally there was nothing to do with fantasy or science fantasy. It wasn't vogue. Not like it is now. In fact, we've had so many films that we so looked forward to and longed for in the 90s. It's become a bit of perhaps we've got too much now. Be careful what you wish for. But there was nothing about Lord of the Rings. So when the movie came out, oh, wow. Well, it all changed after that, isn't it? It's never stopped being in the forefront of its influence on movies, the way in which Jackson had, I remember someone saying, the way the camera moves is magnificent. There's this one scene in the first film where he's on top of Orthanc and he drops down onto, is it Gwaihir the eagle? And it's the way the camera moves and goes down as he's falling. That was hardly ever the case in movies, but now it's commonplace. Almost 40 years after reading this, when that film came out, no, it wouldn't have been 40 years, it would have been 25 years after I read this and Peter Jackson, the film, came out. Most of that period, you would struggle to have come across any reference or anybody talking about the books. How brilliant it is. And for most of my life, it was countercultural. It was similar to the 1960s when suddenly on Subway in New York and also the London Underground, students would write up Gandalf and all those kind of references and no one knew what it was referencing. You can't believe that now is the case now. You only have to mention Gandalf and people know who you mean. So it's just a brilliant book. Very unusual if you think about it, how it became. And this is the thing, why did it become so famous eventually? What resonates in this with people today and ever since it came out? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why people would get so invested in this book and yet not potentially another fantasy type book? Is it the language? Is it the imagery? Is it the quest? Is it the idea that, like a farm boy on Tatooine, gets together with some misfits and then can change the whole course of the history of that world? Does it tell us that the smallest person can make an effect? Is it the lure, the power of ultimate weaponry? Or, the ability to lord it over others if you wanted to? Perhaps it's all of those. Perhaps a lot of the politics of today, and as I was growing up, this is a counterpoint to that. This is how leadership should be. I mean, think of Aragorn. So perhaps there's a lot of things in here that we see the world, and this is the world that we would like. I don't know. I don't know even if that's true. But there must be something in that book to make it a perennial favourite, and I couldn't give an answer. I actually couldn't give you an answer why I love it so much. It makes no sense, really. It's hard to say why it's such a perennial favourite for myself. I couldn't really give you the reasons why, but I just love it. So there you go, Lord of the Rings. One of the books that's definitely had a lifelong interest in for myself. So there you go, Lord of the Rings. One of the 5 or handful of books I'm going to talk about that has had a real impact on my life, which has opened up a love of so many other things. What about you? Have you enjoyed the book? Do you enjoy it now? What is it about this book that appeals to you? If you don't mind, comment down below. Thank you very much. Ta-ta for now.